Good evening and welcome to Nurse Maureen's Health Show podcast. I'm Maureen McGrath, a registered nurse, nurse continence advisor, and sexual health educator. Thanks so much for tuning into the show tonight. We have a fairly heavy subject to discuss. And as always, we want to bring you conversations that educate, inform, inspire, and empower. And tonight's episode explores an issue that affects far too many children and families, but often remains hidden from public view: the lasting impact of child abuse and the critical importance of supporting victims with compassion, dignity, and justice. My guest tonight is Marcia Penner. She was the best friend of Kristen French, and she also now works with the Kristen French Child Advocacy Center. For those of you who may not be familiar with the case, Kristen French was abducted, tortured, raped, and murdered by convicted criminals Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Marcia has dedicated her life, basically, since the age of 15, to creating a safer, more supportive path for children and youth who have experienced abuse or violence. Under her work, the center has become a model of collaboration, bringing together police, child protection, medical professionals, mental health experts, and victim advocates so children only have to tell their story once in a safe, child-friendly environment. Tonight, we're also going to discuss the ongoing efforts to strengthen victims' rights in Canada, including the recent debate surrounding Bill C-232, and why advocacy continues to be so important for children, survivors, their families, and friends. This is an important conversation about healing, justice, and hope. Please join me in welcoming Marcia Penner to the Nurse Maureen Health Show podcast. Good evening, Marcia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Maureen, for having me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. You basically lost your best friend at a tender age, the age of 15. But for listeners who may not be familiar with your story, can you tell us about your friendship with Kristen French and how her murder shaped your commitment to victims advocacy?
Yes, absolutely. Kristen and I met in grade seven. I actually had come to a school just a little bit into the school year. I was moving here from a different country, and so I started a little bit late. And we were fast friends. It was myself and Tennille and Laura and Kristen. They had already been friends. They had already started the school year, and they accepted me in with open arms, and we were fast friends, fast best friends. Everyone called us the Four Musketeers. We were basically inseparable. We did everything together. We would, um, you know, the mall, after school, hangouts, all our sleepovers. We even got to do a school trip to Quebec City all together in the same room, which was quite the adventure. And we had so much fun together. We had lots of dreams and future goals together, and all of that was cut very, very short. Kristen was a beautiful, kind, innocent girl who was full of life. She was always smiling, making others smile, and she loved to skate. She was just a very good girl, and she just brought the best out in all of us. And when she was taken so tragically from us, it changed our lives forever. Um, it it was almost not almost, it was absolutely unbelievable. You didn't really believe what was happening. We kept saying, no, she's going to come home, she's going to come home. And when we found out that what had actually happened to her, that she had been abducted and murdered, we just it was too much to cope with. All three of us that were left, Neil, Laura, and I, we all dealt with it in different ways, and processed it in different ways. And some of us didn't process it at all for several years to come. And it really did shape, you know, who we were and who we became. And so Kristen was a huge part of our lives and continues to be and will forever be.
Take me back to that time. You're a 15-year-old adolescent. You're starting to find your way a bit in the world, gaining independence, and you find out that one of your best friends, if not your best friend, is murdered. I mean,
Mhm.
what was that like at that age?
Yeah, it was it was horrible. It was definitely the hardest thing that we've ever gone through. Um, for me, I had so many questions. I had a lot of survivor's guilt. Um,
And
it
why was
was
that?
Kristen was. I know everybody, they say, oh, that this person was so perfect or so special, but she really was. She was so good. She was just so
Hmm.
good. Her heart was so pure. She was just so kind and loving. And I felt, why her? Like, why did this happen to her and not just to me? Like, not that I was, you know, it just, you feel guilty. You're like, I just don't understand why this happened. And as a teenager, you're trying to process and make sense of it and understand it. And it just was not, you just couldn't. It
Right.
just, it's too big.
And she was walking home by herself from school, something kids do every day all across this country.
Yeah, yes, she was. And yeah, she was just walking home, innocently walking home after school. And we had gone to her school because we went to different high schools. So in grade eight, we graduated grade eight together, and then um, I went to one high school and she went to another. We still obviously stayed in contact and whatnot, but I had gone to her school the day before to see her. And so that was another whole thing, like, well, why didn't I go the next day? And so you go through all of these things, your mind is just all over the place, and you're just feeling terrible that you just couldn't do anything to help her or save her. So, and she was doing nothing wrong.
Right. No, in fact, she was lured in. She was lured in by Karla Homolka, is my understanding, who was
Yeah,
accompanied by her then husband, Paul Bernardo,
yeah.
because they pretended that they were lost. And then when Kristen French was distracted, Paul Bernardo, it's my understanding, jumped out of the vehicle and forced her into the car at knife point. And there were witnesses that saw this. This is also part of this horrific crime.
Yes, exactly. She wouldn't have seen it coming. She didn't know them. And Kristen was so sweet and kind. She would have trusted anybody if they had asked for help or, needed a helping hand or any of those things. She wouldn't have. I don't think she would have seen the bad in anybody. So, it's my feeling that she wouldn't have even seen this coming.
This is evil. This is a whole new level of evil. But I'm just curious, how did you start speaking out loudly about this horrific situation?
Yeah, so the first time that I've always, tried to keep Kristen's memory alive, and we've always talked about Kristen and shared memories with Kristen and my kids. I have grown kids now, and my kids know everything about Kristen. Um, we never held anything back. We shared everything with her and to try to keep her memory alive, and that is what I continue to do. But when I felt that I needed to step up and start to speak out and get loud was when I got the news that Karla Homolka was volunteering at her children's school. And it was my understanding that she was volunteering in the classroom. Um, and I just absolutely was not going to stand by and have that. So I actually pinned a letter directly to Karla that went viral. It's my understanding that she received the letter, and I just basically just told her that this will not be. I will do everything in my power to make this stop. That she has no right to be around children, and from there, I believe she was then taken out of the school, not allowed to volunteer, and I believe she moved from the area at that point. So, um, I hopefully mission was accomplished there.
It shows you that advocacy is very beneficial at times. Let's not forget that Karla Homolka admitted to her role in the death of her own 15-year-old sister, Tammy, but she was never convicted of killing her. I gather she negotiated a controversial plea deal with Ontario prosecutors. So she agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter in the murders of 2 other teenagers, one of whom was your friend, Kristen French, and also Leslie Mahaffey, in exchange for testifying against her husband, Paul Bernardo. I mean, it's shocking that this woman was released from prison, got into a relationship, had her own children, and then was volunteering at her children's school. Like, I mean, this denial, look away. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But obviously, the work that you have done and that the Kristen French Center has done has been extraordinarily beneficial. But now, what prompted you to write your recent letter? You haven't stopped writing letters, as I
No,
understand it,
no, no.
Marcia.
Apparently I like to write.
Yes, yes, excellent. I'm glad you do. So you've penned a letter to the members of Parliament following the defeat of Bill C-232. Can you tell me a little bit about what that bill is and why you decided to pen another letter?
Yeah. So it's important to know that I actually have been involved with this bill right from its conception. So when I got word that Paul Bernardo was being moved to the medium security facility from maximum security, he was en route. I didn't know prior. So when I did get that phone call that he was being moved, I called everybody I could think of. I called all the MPs, all the MPPs, all the, all of the different political parties, including the prime minister, um, anybody that I could think of that had any kind of power within the government. I reached out to them.
Hmm.
Tony Baldinelli, who is our local MP here, um, conservative MP here, he reached out to me right away, as well as Pierre Polyev, and they got involved and they made a promise that they were going to try to right this wrong, and which led to me being on a SECU committee along with my friends Tennille and Laura, where we could go and try to get this decision reversed, which we weren't successful at yet. We will continue to try, but and then which led us to this bill C-232, which essentially is a bill that would ensure that anybody that is designated a dangerous offender or multiple murderer, mass murderer,
Hmm.
when sentenced to maximum security, would do their entire stay in such institution. So they would stay in a maximum security institution. It's a very common sense bill. I thought it was very straightforward and a no-brainer. Apparently, there was some MPs that didn't agree with that, seeing as it was defeated. But yeah, it was very like I say, I thought it was very straightforward. It's important to note too that this bill was for every family, not just Kristen and you know myself and other victims. It's for every victim that has ever endured any kind of horrific violence. This bill wasn't about revenge or, trying to get back at Paul Bernardo or anything of that nature. It was just about ensuring that Canada's most dangerous offenders and mass murderers remain where Canadians reasonably expect them to be, in a maximum security facility. The bill was defeated. I felt I couldn't stay silent. I wanted MPs to understand that these decisions have real human consequences for victims and for the public itself. So that's
And
why I wrote this.
yeah, and that dangerous offender designation is really important, correct?
This dangerous offender designation is extremely important, and I really want people to understand that designation. It is one of the highest legal designations in Canada's justice system. It's not only applied after extensive court proceedings, expert psychiatric and psychological assessments, evidence demonstrating an ongoing serious risk to public safety. It takes a long time to achieve such a designation. These aren't ordinary offenders. These individuals are determined to present and to continue to present an exceptional and continuing danger. And it's less than 1,000 people designated in Canada. That's a very small group of people. So this designation is not an easy thing to achieve. And once they are designated, it is a big deal and should be taken as such.
Right. And it determines
Mhm.
where people are housed, basically, or where they're imprisoned, correct?
It should, yes. I have to be
Ultimately,
on.
for public safety.
Well, exactly. And I had a good talk with a friend this morning, and I had said this prior to Tony, and I've said it a number of times, but I don't understand why we have maximum security facilities if people like Paul Bernardo are not the ones that are being housed in them. If he's not
Mhm.
housed in a maximum security and staying there, why do we have them? This, like these people are the worst of the worst people, the worst offenders that they can't be rehabilitated. They can't be re-educated. They should never be reintegrated. So why are they being moved from a maximum security facility and moved into a medium and then, you know, in the words of Tom Osborne, moved into a medium and then reintegrated back into society? That's terrifying.
Exactly. And in your letter, you addressed that. You asked why the comfort of dangerous offenders appeared to take precedence over public safety and victims' rights. And what concerns led you to raise that question?
Yeah, this question I have been asked a number of times by victims' families, and we continue all to ask. Um, Families spend decades with trauma.
Mhm.
This is never ending. Like for us, it's 34 years. And yet decisions about transferring dangerous offenders, it often focuses on what's best for the offender rather than the lasting impact on the victims and their families. And I'm not suggesting people should be treated inhumanely. I'm asking that the public safety and the victims' rights carry weight. Someone like Paul Bernardo, who committed the worst of the worst crimes, shouldn't be given the luxuries of a medium security institution, period.
Absolutely. And, their crimes extended to so many people, can you imagine Karla Homolka's parents, her
Mhm,
family, her extended family, her friends,
mhm.
Paul Bernardo's family and friends and employers, and I mean, everybody that knew people, that knew them, then not to mention all of the victims. And I mean, how possibly can people forgive or to get over it? It's just something that there are certain things in life that people never get over. And I think this is one of those things that, people who were affected by it, like yourself, will
Mhm.
never get over. That's why your work is so important.
Well,
Now,
thank you.
opponents of the bill argue that correctional classification should remain individualized and evidence based. How do you respond to those concerns?
Yeah. So this is probably the toughest question. Um, I absolutely agree that evidence should matter. But once someone has gone through the years of assessments and has been legally designated a dangerous offender or committed multiple murders, those facts are already based on evidence. So these people are the worst of the worst. They cannot be re-educated, not rehabilitated, should never be reintegrated. My concern is that for this very specific group of offenders, the balance should be placed greater emphasis on the public safety and maintaining public confidence in the justice system. The most dangerous and frightening part of all of this is during Tom Osborne's address in the House of Commons when speaking to the bill, he clearly stated that they believe that these offenders can be re-educated, reintegrated, rehabilitated, and then reintegrated back into society. That, and there are some MPs in that room that believe that. That
Mhm.
is terrifying. That should be terrifying to everybody, um, everybody in this community, everybody in Canada. Anybody that believes that a perpetrator like this can be reintegrated back into society is not okay. It's not, and it's a very terrifying notion. And I think everybody needs to really speak up and pay attention because if that is the mentality of what is going on, we are in deep trouble.
It's often one of those things that unless it happens to them, they can't fully empathize with it. I see that with politicians a lot, whether it's related to legal cases or
Mhm.
healthcare. Um, Now, this must have personally affected you when Paul Bernardo received a security reclassification, not to mention Karla Homolka being released
Mhm.
and then going out to, try to lead a normal life. I can't imagine her life is normal. I can't imagine the demons in her head. But what does that security reclassification and that moving on with life, what impact does that have on victims' families and survivors who are already carrying immense trauma?
Well, it has, like you say, it is immense trauma and it carries that immense trauma ongoing. It's reopening wounds that never, ever have healed. Um, every time there's a move or there's a parole hearing. The parole hearings are, it's just terrible on these poor families and victims. They're reliving everything from right from day one to now, over and over again. I mean, every 2 years they have to go through this. Every time something is in the media, it's just constantly reopening these wounds and re-victimizing them, and it's not fair. And this is why I get so upset when we are focusing more on the offender's rights rather than the victim's rights. These victims are being re-victimized constantly, and yet we're just giving the people who have done it more rights and freedoms, and it's just absolutely not right.
Exactly. And you wonder if they're kowtowing, the politicians are kowtowing to their constituents. Now, some people, Marcia, may assume that a maximum security designation is punitive rather
Mhm.
than protective. So how do you view the purpose of maintaining maximum security status for dangerous offenders and multiple murderers?
So I see it as protective. Maximum security isn't about adding punishment. The courts have already imposed the sentence. So it's about recognizing the extraordinary risk posed by this category of offenders and ensuring institutional decisions reflect that reality. When you're a dangerous offender or a multiple murderer and sentenced to a maximum security facility, that's where you should be carrying out your entire sentence. Like I said before, it's simple math. And as we discussed earlier, if not these offenders, then who? So I don't. I believe it is a protective measure, and I strongly believe that when they are sentenced to a maximum security facility, that's exactly where they need to stay for the remainder of their stay. If they
Yeah,
are dangerous offenders and mass murder, yeah.
exactly, because you cannot take the risk, especially with criminals like this, who both are likely to reoffend, or anybody who has had a history of a crime like these crimes.
Mhm.
They're both, regardless of this facade of living this allegedly normal life, there's still a risk that Homolka may reoffend. You know,
Well, these people they're master manipulators.
exactly.
That's how they've committed their crimes. Paul
Hmm.
Bernardo was a serial rapist before he ever was a murderer. I mean, this guy was a career criminal before he took his first life. I mean, these people know how to work the system.
Hmm.
They know how to trick you. They know how to, oh, they're testing them. And, when I wrote to Ann Kelly, the commissioner at the time, about this move, saying how absolutely ludicrous it was, it was the defense that, well, he's done all the testing, and they've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And I'm like, he knows how to work the system. That's what he does. That's
Exactly.
like, of course he knows how to answer your questions. Like, of course I'm going to be a good boy, and yep, I'm all fixed. And I mean, like, come on, like,
Right.
it's just ridiculous.
Yes, having known master manipulators, having come across them in my life, time,
Right.
my response to that is they've managed to manipulate everybody. These types of people can manipulate psychiatrists, well-trained psychiatrists, and many other people as well. And I imagine the legal system, they can also. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's just horrific to think that he's not uh, being protected in the way that he should be. And what kind of response have you received from victims' families, advocacy groups, and members of the public since your letter was circulated?
So I have over the years I have received I can't countless messages and letters, um, phone calls. I've heard from victims, their families, survivors, of course, radio stations, advocacy centers, everyday Canadians. I've gotten throughout the years so many people that have opened up to me. They've opened up to me about their situations and how they have been victimized in some cases, survivors of victims, families. Um, and, some people have also reached out and said how this has, Kristen's case specifically has changed their lives. I had one lady that came to me, and she said she chose to be a police officer because of Kristen's case. And so, I
Mm.
mean, so many people have reached out in regards to this letter here. I've had so much support, so many people reaching out, in agreement with this. They agree that this is ridiculous. I have not had one MP that I address this letter to or the Prime Minister respond to me. So none of them, nobody that has voted nay to the bill has has gotten back to me, but that's not surprising. But other than that, I've gotten a tremendous amount of response from this, and which makes me continue to advocate for all victims, and I'll continue to speak out, and hopefully we can make a difference and right this wrong.
It's really horrifying that no members of parliament or the prime minister have reached out to you, to be honest with you. This was a national crime. This was one of the worst crimes ever, to be bestowed upon children, to be bestowed upon a sister. I mean, that is just unheard of. The level of evil in that premeditated criminal act is, cannot be overstated. That's just shocking to me. It just shows a lack of empathy on the side of the politicians, quite honestly, in my humble opinion. We just have a few minutes left, Marcia, but looking ahead, what changes would you like to see from Parliament and Correctional Service Canada to better balance offender management with public safety and victims' rights in mind or at the forefront?
Yeah, so I would like to see Parliament and Correctional Services place great emphasis and focus on victims' rights and public safety, especially when dealing with dangerous offenders and multiple murders. I believe that victims and their families deserve meaningful consultation and not just simple notification after the decision has already been made. They need transparency, accountability, and public confidence in the justice system, and that should always be top priority. We also need these politicians to work together. I've I've never seen a situation. I've never been involved in politics. I'm not a political person. I have my views and I have my beliefs and whatnot, but to see in what is, in my opinion, somebody vote down a bill simply because it did not come from their side of the floor, and not considering the public safety end of it, it's alarming, and it is very, very, very discouraging and disheartening. And so I believe that everybody needs to get on board, get together, work together, and do their job that we hire them to do and we pay them to do, which is protect the public, keep the public safe, and not worry about, well, oh, this party voted that way, so I've got to vote this way. Instead, do what's right. And so that is what I would like to see going forward. If I may add, Kristen has always been my driving force. My goal has never been to keep her memory tied to how she died, but to who she was.
Hmm.
Every time I speak, I hope that everybody remembers the remarkable young woman she was and the continued work that's being done in her name to protect children and support victims. This isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility, and it's about protecting the public, respecting the victims, and ensuring Canada's most dangerous offenders are managed in a way that's going to reflect the severity of the crimes and the lasting impacts that they have on these victims and their families and friends. So that is the purpose of this, what I'll continue to do. And hopefully, we'll, like I said, we will be able to right this wrong.
And Kristen French's spirit is alive and well inside of your heart,
She
Marcia.
sure is. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
Best of
she is.
luck with all of your amazing work. And thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your insight, compassion, and unwavering commitment to the children and families of Canada and around the world who need it most.
Thank you so much, Maureen.
Thank you. Marcia's work reminds us that protecting children is not solely the responsibility of one organization. It is a responsibility shared by all of us. By listening, believing, advocating, and supporting evidence-based services, we can help create safer communities and brighter futures for our children. If tonight's conversation has touched you and inspired you to learn more about the work of the Kristen French Child Advocacy Center, I encourage you to reach out, become informed, and consider supporting their mission in whatever way that you can. And thanks so much for tuning in to tonight's show. If you appreciated this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who would benefit from this most important conversation. Until next time, I'm Maureen McGrath, registered nurse, host of the Nurse Maureen's Health Show podcast, helping you make informed decisions for better health, stronger families, and healthier communities.